right? But then what was so interesting is the next morning I watched all the roundup of the Haiti benefit. Again, it's my job. But the two clips they used over and over were former President Clinton and Denzel Washington. It's just so much more interesting to see. The other thing to think about, you'll notice tonight, I very particularly walked on from here. If you are ever speaking in front of a group, okay, because we read from left to right, right? So when someone walks up from here, this is your natural, rhythm. You're used to looking this way for things to happen. When speakers walk on from this side, just to see how you feel that, you just don't like me as much because you feel snuck up on. It's a really small thing. But until it's not, because you want everybody to like you as much as possible. If you have a screen, as we do, you want to, again, this podium's in the exact right spot, because you want to have the audience look at you and then look at your slide, should you choose to use a slide, all right? Again, you're in there already in their, the loop that they're used to looking at. Again, when the podium is over here, we'll just do an imaginary podium. And then I'm talking, and now I'm making you work too hard. So if you have a conference room, you want to rearrange that immediately. Just because it's fun to know, the exact opposite is true for TV. We trust what's on the right-hand side of the screen. We don't trust what's on the left. That's why all the talk show hosts sit on the right. Oprah's on the right, Letterman's on the right, Leno's on the right. Everybody's over there for a reason. Whenever they do a compare-contrast, the product they want you to buy at the end of the commercial, the bright white sock, is going to be on the right-hand side of that screen, I promise you. We just like things better when they're over there. So, yes, all of these things begin to matter. Do any of you stand up in front of a group and speak like this? Ever? Sometimes? Maybe? Yes. All right. So let's consider that for a minute, because I see a lot of people who need to think about it. So you're waiting on the correct side, and then you see people whose names get called, and they go, no, don't do that, right? No, because now everybody in the audience is tense for you, right? So you're like, yay, my name's been called. You saw me tonight. I'm like, yay, yay for me. Like, even if you suck, I want you to be like, yay, here I go. All right, I do, and you do, and you do, and you talk, and you be. And then at the end, you'll see a lot of people who weren't that bad. Like, you didn't think they were that bad, but for whatever reason, they're upset. Like, I forgot bullet point 3 on slide 5. And then they finish, and they go, you've all seen that exit, and it's so disheartening to me, because you're like, I didn't think they were that bad, but they look so unhappy. So I really need you to be like, yay, gloat back to your seat. All right, you're still presenting from the time till you sit down. If you travel to another office to present, you're presenting from in this town, at least 3 blocks away. You don't know who's in the Starbucks with you. You do not know. You've got to be super careful. I recently. I had to go to a speaking engagement in California, and I'm always talking about how you're presenting from the time you leave your house. But I was standing in Kennedy, and I started talking to the guy next to me, waiting to get on the plane. And it turned out not only was he was going to the conference at which I was speaking. So, hi, I'm presenting in Kennedy Airport now. And then he sat next to me on the plane. 6 hours. And I was like, what TV can I watch right now? I can't watch The Housewives for 6 hours. I'm going to look like an idiot. Right? So I went with Animal Planet, because I thought Animal Planet's like, I won't seem dumb, but I can, I can do 6 hours of Animal. I can't do 6 hours of CNN. So, but it was just, you really do have to be careful. And again, when you're leaving, same thing. I talk a lot about, and it seems incredibly pedantic, before any big meeting, pick 3 small talk topics. Because you can go sit down in a restaurant and wait for the waiter to bring the menu and just pick some random topic and then that's it. You've just blown the whole lunch and you haven't even gotten your order in. Or you leave, you have a great meeting and you're standing by the elevator and it gets a little awkward and you just pick some random topic and then the whole thing blows up in your face. So I want all that to be done ahead of time. Again, it seems really, Oh, people tend to, they get nervous and, they make a joke about, do you ever go to that the dump deli downstairs? And not realizing that the person they're talking to, goes there every morning, whatever it might be. It just, all of these different kinds of, it seems small. I really, in that moment, I tend to pick, you know, as crazy as it sounds, you can't go wrong with the weather, right? Have you been on any trips recently? Like all of these kinds of things, just small, just something, a couple of go-to topics. Because it's so easy to just have, as I said, just, and you can feel it happen, like all the airs, and you have no idea what you just said that ruined it. So, seemingly innocuous remarks. My brother's still trying to figure out what he said once in Asia that offended people just to the point that they refused to meet with him for the remaining 3 days he was there. He's been over it in his mind. He's talked to me about it. We can't figure out what he said. It was very strange. Anyway, so I want those things to be clear. So any of the questions about 7, 38, 55 before I go on? We're just talking straight physicality. Yes, please.
What do you think is the reason that you reverse the order on TV? Do we think it's a mirror and we automatically flip it in our mind?
I mean, again, it just comes back to, you know, it's that very cellular, the left-hand side is sinister. And we still always see things that way. That's why the lead story in the newspaper is always the top right. It's just, we're at the end of the day, we're very primitive. I mean, with all of our gadgets and our yak, we're not. We need to see your hands. We like things that are on the right-hand side. We need to cover ourselves in public. You know, none of these things isn't a natural.
The reading left to right thing.
Yeah, that's a biofeedback loop.
Totally
Yeah.
get that, but the TV thing is.
Yeah, no, that's just, it's true. It's strange, right?
I understand why.
Yes.
It's so much of your presentation and your success or failure in a meeting deals with how your physicality.
Mm-hmm.
So much business is done via conference calls,
Right.
Where they're only hearing your words.
Right.
How do you handle that?
I want you to stand whenever you do a conference call. Again, standing automatically gives your voice more. And if you have a whole bunch of people in a room, I want everybody standing. I take all the chairs away. I go in a lot.
Makes for a short meeting also.
It does. But I go in a lot to coach people who are, you know, they've got these big calls where a deal is riding on it. Nobody gets to sit down. And then I'm in the back of the room like a crazy person going like, I need more from you. Happy. We're happy. Right? This is me. If you're alone and you don't have people to give you that feedback, I recommend looking in the mirror. Because you automatically are going to entertain yourself. You just will. You will. You can't look at yourself in the mirror and just be like, blah, blah, blah. You don't. You smile at yourself and you're so funny. You do, I promise you. I do a lot of teleconferences. No, but I know it seems like you're super narcissistic, but you're not. But I do teleconferences, you know, where I have 40 or 50 people on a call and they're all on mute. And boy, is that boring. I'm getting no feedback. So I'm looking in a mirror and I am cracking myself up because you've got to do, so yes, I highly recommend. I was working recently with a recording artist. She had a new album out. And you do the same interview 14 times. Tell me about the album. Try and sound excited about that conference. So I just put her in front of her mirror in her hotel and I was like, go, amuse yourself. So yes, the mirror is your savior there. Any other questions about these things? Yes, no, maybe? What would we most like to talk about? We could talk PowerPoint presentations. We could talk hostile question and answer. We could talk both. Yes?
Do you think it's appropriate to call a meeting and expect your staff or anybody not to bring their BlackBerries along to the meeting? Because
I would.
what inevitably happens is that you'll find somebody around the big conference table who's sitting there on their BlackBerry.
I think if it's your meeting, you can absolutely say no BlackBerries. The point is you're going to be out of there in half the time if you don't have 14 people under the table. So I think, yeah, if it's your meeting, then, I mean, I don't allow BlackBerries when I'm coaching. That's gone over really well a couple of times. But
It's such a big, I mean, even in presentations, I see salesmen come in with their BlackBerries on top of all their, presentation or their, their
Right.
agendas and recaps, and it's like, leave the BlackBerries at the desk.
right.
Even if your buyer's sitting there with her BlackBerry in hand, leave
Right.
the BlackBerry.
Yes, you need to give people your undivided attention. And again, from 2 blocks away, wherever you go, if you're going into a meeting. Because that's the other thing that makes me crazy. People will finish lunch, and then, like, you know, they're waiting to crack the code on some, you know, international crisis. They've got to get their BlackBerry out while the bill is being paid, or while they're walking to the door to get their coat. Seriously, you can't just finish, like, give your goodbyes the same attention you gave your hellos. And then, you know what, a block away, you can look at your BlackBerry. I'm sure it's all going to be fine. I really do. It makes me nuts. But it's hard. If it's not your meeting, then it's hard to enforce that kind of thing. But one of the reasons that I don't use slides, is because once you got slides up there, everybody checks out. The room is dark. I can check my BlackBerry. Nobody can see. No, I mean, and for me, truly, if there's a reason, if there's a visual that needs to go up there because I can't make it understood by having it come out of my mouth, I promise you the day that happens, I will have a slide for it. But my feeling is people are smart. If I say something interesting, they can write it down. And they've been reading for a really long time. So they don't need to be read to. So yes, I don't tend to use slides. If you do have them, Guy Kawasaki, who bills himself as the chief evangelist for Mac, has what he calls the 10-20-30 rule, which is you shouldn't have more than 10 slides. You shouldn't speak for longer than 20 minutes. And if anything on your slide is written in smaller than 30-point type, you have too many words on the slide. And I think that is a good rule of thumb, that I'm completely comfortable with that one. The other thing that I like people to know about is what's known as the rule of 3, which is we can only remember 3 things, and at point 4 we stop listening, right? And this is why it's 3 stooges and 3 bears and 3 little pigs and 3 musketeers and 3 blind mice. You think I'm joking? No, it's all done for a reason. And there are 3 wishes in every fairy story. It never like that genie comes out and says, you get 4. You can't. Your brain shuts down. So I want 3 bullet points on a slide. I'm going to make the following 3 points in my speech. I want you to remember these 3 things. No more. Bye-bye. Yeah, 3 is good. What did I do with my water? I was wandering around. Oh, there it is. There it is. That's just another, just so you know, and it's one of the things I talk a lot about. If you can't fix it, feature it. I talk about 2 things. And make it everybody's problem, all right? If something happens, like you lose your water, I wasn't going to stand up here and be thirsty and then try and figure out where it was and keep talking to you. I can't do 2 things at once. I'd love to think I can, but I can't. So, hey, I'm going to make it everybody's problem. What have I done with it? If you spill the water across the conference room table, as I have done in a meeting once, it was actually an important meeting, and I've soaked about 3 people down. Don't pretend it didn't happen. Right? Everybody does that. They just pretend. No. Stop. Deal with it. Apologize once. That's the other tricky bit. Because the other thing is then people get into the over-apologizing. And, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me just say again how sorry I am. And then they leave again. I just want to say one more time. Don't. Shh, be quiet. One time. So I had a client once whose podium collapsed in the middle of one of his speeches. And I said to him, what did you do? And he said, I tried to pretend it wasn't happening. I was like, seriously, have you learned nothing from me and all the time we've worked together? I would have made hay out of a collapsing podium. So yes, but I do, you can have things be big, it's fine. Any questions about any other things? Yes?
If your rule of saying you're sorry is only once, is that the same rule for saying thank you?
Oh no, I'm heavy into thank you. But that said, what I don't ever want and what makes me want to hang myself is when people get up again. You get up in front of your crowd of people and they go, oh, I want to thank so-and-so for having me here tonight. I want to thank so-and-so and I want to thank Really? This is the first impact that you have. And you're going to waste it on a bunch of white noise with the thank you and the thank you with a whole bunch of people that nobody in the audience knows who they are? No. It's a wasted opportunity. Winston Churchill said opening amenities or opening inanities. Okay? I like it. So it's great if you want to thank people at the end of your talk. Thank you for listening. But I never thank people at the beginning. What I want you to begin any presentation with a fact. I mean, you see I did it tonight. There's a statistic, 7:30, 8:55. Boom, we're in, we're going. Or you can tell a story, you can ask a question. Something to get people engaged. The more you can